I want my audience, I want to be very upfront about where I'm at on this conversation, why I was so drawn to your story, and why I believe they will be so drawn to your story. I think we are at a very interesting place in America where we know we are being sort of abused by the media. We know that they're lying to us about everything. There's, for me, the world before Charlie Kirk died and the world after Charlie Kirk died. And it seems like there's been an increase in this sort of, I don't know, like a tactic to make us think that we're the crazy ones when nothing is making sense. And when I read your story and learned about Victor Marx, there were so many themes that were coming up here. This idea of the pastor, this idea of you can't question this because the Lord has willed this. This is what we're all feeling right now, like faith has been used to manipulate the masses and actually to maybe cover up for evil.
So Candace Owens just exposed a massive intelligence operation disguised as ministry, and it connects directly to Charlie Kirk's assassination. We're diving deep into Victor Marx's psychological manipulation tactics and how religious authority is being weaponized to silence Americans. This changes everything about what we thought we knew.
This idea of the pastor, this idea of you can't question this because the Lord has willed this. This is what we're all feeling right now, like faith has been used to manipulate the masses and actually to maybe cover up for evil. So I want you to know that when we have this conversation, I will interject and put my opinion. As always, it does not need to become your opinion. Feel free to say, Candace, I don't believe that. That sounds crazy. That could be a conspiracy. Or say, I plead the fifth. You could just say that you want to stay mum.
Yeah, sure thing.
But I wanted to give you a chance because I know that Victor Marx has a following. You do not. And he has been instantly right out of the gate saying that you are a crazy person, which is one of their favorite tactics. Everybody who disagrees with me is an insane person. So who actually are you, Corby Hall?
This religious gaslighting playbook is everywhere now. Question the narrative and suddenly you're faithless or divisive. It's Darvo manipulation. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. Notice how Marx immediately labeled his victim crazy rather than address the evidence. Classic intelligence operation deflection.
And, this led into the Victor explaining what a retooling prayer is. And I had never heard that term before. And I grew up in church. But I wasn't heavily rooted in scripture at that point in time. We're talking December 23. So it didn't click with me that was something to watch out for. I'm just, I'm excited we're here. This seems like it might be what I've been working for all this time, and all the stress and the lawsuits and the marriages, and finally somebody understands. So, hey, let's do a retooling prayer. And so he kind of explains it, and he's asking Eileen a lot of questions about the process. So to me, it was like, well, why does he have to ask her how it goes, from component to component of how this retooling prayer goes? But again, I just let it slide, and so we agree. And it would start off with me, and this whole process, I think, lasted maybe 15 minutes each.
Red flags everywhere. Calling it a ritual instead of prayer. Having to ask his wife for steps he should know by heart. Legitimate pastoral counseling doesn't involve mysterious ceremonies. This sounds like occult programming disguised as Christianity, designed to extract psychological vulnerabilities.
Believers can't be possessed by demons. That's scripture. And so when you have believers come to this quasi exorcism, you can't call it an exorcism. So you have to reframe everything. So possession now becomes assignment.
Okay.
So they're not in you, but they're attached to you.
Okay.
So in you, that's scriptural, a non-believer possessed inside you. A believer can't be possessed inside, but can be attached the outside. And so if you engage in a continuous sin, like you have invited a demon to walk alongside you, I suppose.
Marx is literally rewriting Christian theology to justify occult practices. Biblical scholars have been clear for centuries. Believers cannot be demon-possessed, period. This assignment versus possession distinction is pure manipulation, allowing him to perform rituals while maintaining a Christian facade.
Just pausing here for dramatic effect, because that is how I am envisioning that. Victor Marx then believes that he has the capability not just to command demons, but to command angels. And that's what he's telling you. He can.
Yeah.
Wow. That is. Sorry for interrupting, but that's the statement right there.
Yeah.
And also, to be clear, I hadn't realized this. I thought when you said you guys went one by one that maybe Eileen's in another room, but you guys were all in the room together. This is a
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and Eileen is still kind of reminding him of the steps. He knows what to say, but it's just like, oh no, you do this step first, and then he'd be like, oh yeah.
And which angel did he say?
Didn't say. I don't remember him saying the names of the angels.
Okay.
Again, all recorded, so it'd be interesting to
figure out which angel he believes he's commanding.
Yeah. So
this is just, this is a scary story to me. Like, I don't even watch scary movies. So it's like a movie right now in my head that I'm walking out of the theater right now. I'm just going like, okay.
Commanding angels is pure blasphemy in Christian doctrine. Only God has that authority. Marx isn't just manipulating people, he's practicing witchcraft while calling it ministry. The horror on her face is completely appropriate. This man is dangerous.
And so this is where I started to get in kind of a trance-like state. And I was staring straight at Victor, and I wasn't blinking my eyes. They were kind of watering up. And stopped breathing, not as a panic, but just I noticed that I just wasn't breathing for a few seconds. And so, again, first thing that pops into your head, and I said, you're a fraud. And then what's the second lie that you're telling Corby? And said, your kids don't love you. And the third lie, she'll never love you. So that was the three lies, first things that popped in my head. And so then, after that set of questions, was what is the one truth that God's trying to tell Corby that you're blocking from him hearing? And of course, it's you're not a fraud. Your kids do love you. And she's sitting right there next to you, and she's not going to leave you.
Classic psychological extraction technique. Induce a trance state, then command the subconscious to reveal deepest fears. Notice the physical signs: fixed stare, stopped breathing, watering eyes. This is hypnotic induction, not spiritual warfare.
That's it. Like, there's nothing happening other than we're all self-conscious. We constantly in our head are saying things, oh, this is not right. We in our normal capacity, we're our own worst critics. And he's just commanded that out of you, and now he knows your weak spots.
Yep.
Yeah. Now he knows and you at the end of that, because you're doing this and these people are strangers, you've instantly established an emotional connection with these people because you shared with them something that you would not just share to a person that you met.
Right.
So he is, I would almost say he's trained in that. I don't think he's being trained by a church in that. I'll tell you that.
Right. Oh, I know now.
Mm-hmm. Because in just how the emotion of hearing that, and I instantly know this is these are your deepest fears. That's it. Like, we all have them, and you're talking about your kids, you're talking about, "Does this woman love me?" Like, I'm going into, I think you said this is your 3rd relationship, right? That's gonna obviously be a fear, and he's got the key. Maybe he was summoning demons. Maybe there was somebody in there that might have been a little possessed or attached, and I don't think it was you, but that's my opinion. It's my podcast. I can say my opinion whenever I want.
Can.
Brilliant analysis here. Mark's just extracted a complete psychological profile in 15 minutes. Those demon lies are actually his deepest insecurities about fraud, family rejection, and abandonment. Now, Marx has the exact pressure points to control him completely.
He wants to blow the head off of somebody that sticks their head up over the fence around this orphanage in Haiti, and they have a tower in the middle of it, like some kind of watchtower. Because apparently
In the middle of
they're,
the orphanage?
yeah, the orphanage.
Okay.
And, he's saying that people are jumping over the fence, climbing over, and trying to rob or whatever the orphanage. And so, tell them, yeah, I'm not going to leave it here if that's what you're doing. And, we had a conversation before about shooting watermelons, a previous conversation about shooting watermelons at 1,000 yards. But when I got there, conversation shifted. Now we're in person, and he wants to talk about
Shooting people.
The escalation from watermelons at 1,000 yards to shooting people reveals Marx's true agenda. No legitimate orphanage needs sniper rifles with watchtowers. This sounds like a forward operating base disguised as humanitarian work.
And I said, well, that's a embargo country. So I've exported guns by this point to many different countries, and I know the process, and it's not easy every time, anytime really. And I just knew that Haiti wasn't on that list, on the approved export list. So I was like, nah, I can't do that one because like Haiti's like the last place they're going to let me export guns. Probably the last place. And so I said, I suggest you don't do that with any other firearms either. I'm assuming that he just doesn't know the export laws.
Mhm.
Why am I assuming this? I don't know. But he's a high risk humanitarian abroad. He's been to all these other countries, done operations in. Hindsight 2020. Of course he knew that you can't take guns and drop them off into Haiti.
Haiti has been under arms embargo since 1994. Marx absolutely knows this. He's not ignorantly breaking export laws. He's deliberately testing whether this manufacturer will join his illegal weapons trafficking network. This proves criminal intent.
Mhm.
For a moment. And, my message to Victor was, hey, I'm in the parking lot of Walmart, and, I had bought this life insurance policy like 7 years prior, and I shopped around for one that had a suicide allowance in it for that specific reason.
Mhm.
And I knew, I was sitting in that parking lot, I was crying and said, God's telling me that if I do this, he's not going to take me. So, Victor's response is, well, of course, don't do that. The lawyers, they'll always find a loophole. Okay. And the next message is, well, I can just have you disappeared. I can have you knocked off. I can have you knocked off or disappeared to a banana plantation in South America.
So you're in the parking lot, you've said that, you're going through the suicide crisis. And that's what he comes back with.
Marx's response to a suicide crisis reveals everything. He has access to assassination networks and human trafficking operations. The banana plantation reference suggests forced labor knowledge. This man operates at intelligence agency levels.
And then he tells the bodyguard to step back a few paces. And I stop and I'm looking at him, and I say, "Well, yeah, that they have 3,700 schools. They're going to put an IDF guy in each of the schools." And he's looking at me and says, "No, they need 50,000 for the IDF for operations in Gaza and Lebanon and Syria." So I'm just at this point, like, it's too many red flags for me, and I'm just staring at him, and he's staring back, and he finally starts walking again after 15 or so seconds, and he says, "That's why I'm not ever engaging in scripture with you." And I start walking along with him, and I'm just wondering in my head, like, wow, that what's scripture got to do with guns, IDF?
The truth emerges. Those 50,000 rifles weren't for American schools. They were for Israeli military operations in Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria. Everything else was cover. Notice how Marx refuses scripture when confronted with his real agenda.
And it feels like the entire world was given this retooling prayer, so to speak, after Charlie died. I feel like we went through that, but publicly, where suddenly we're being told this is all God ordained, and this is who you have to follow, and this is who you need to listen to, and if you question this, you've got demons on you. And this is, I think, what was so compelling about your story, because it was a microcosm of what we have seen happen since Charlie passed away, and we have this Victor Marx connection. And I find the manner in which he dealt with you to be sort of the manner in which Turning Point, the stage, everything, they have dealt with us publicly. Like, this is what God has ordained and nobody should question this. And yet we all feel the darkness. Everyone, collectively, the world feels a darkness there outside of the, little bubble of the mainstream media that's trying to conduct the retooling prayer on us. Yeah, I want to say that. I want to say that you are what you perceived in February, April, that faith is being manipulated, and it is not for light forces.
Perfect connection. Marx's individual manipulation mirrors the mass psychological operation Americans experienced after Kirk's death. Religious authority weaponized to silence dissent, with Turning Point USA as the delivery mechanism. We've all been given the retooling prayer.
I'm not hanging my hat on this.
Right.
We don't see much evidence. We see a few things. But the scenario is you have a backpack, you have a rifle that fits in it, and it would not necessarily have to be a full AR. There are some other models where you can take the barrel off with different means, but they're not very popular. In the case of a fold AR, you could have the folded rifle in a backpack and another barrel system in it. And so you get to a shooting position, you take the rifle out, you unfold it, latch it, take your shot. You fold it, pop the pin, take that barrel system off, grab the other barrel system that's in the backpack, connect it to the receiver set, throw the other barrel, the freshly shot barrel system back in the backpack or wrapped around a towel. And you either leave the gun there and you take the backpack and the towel and the barrel system with you and jump off a building, or you put it all back together in the backpack and go put the entire unit somewhere else. So reason behind that. if you're wanting to get away with assassination, then you shoot a bullet out of one system, one barrel system, and then you swap it over to another, and your bullet profile doesn't match. As long as you get one of those components out of the mix, then you're effectively scot-free.
This barrel swapping feature defeats ballistics forensics completely. Fire the shot, swap barrels, and the bullet signature doesn't match the weapon found. Given the timeline and missing fold AR, this could explain how Kirk's assassins escaped detection.
I think this is going to send people down a lot of different rabbit holes. I know for me, I definitely want to chase that fold AR that went missing. And
I think it's a divine point
yeah,
in the right direction.
yeah, and if it could be nothing, but
It is saying, look this direction.
yeah, you felt it, had a question, I have a question, there may be an answer. Sometimes you go somewhere and it's nothing, but we got to try it. I feel like we have to do all that stuff for Charlie, just to
Yeah.
keep looking. And yeah, I think just thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
This investigation just scratched the surface of a massive network using religious cover for intelligence operations. Marx's methods reveal sophisticated psychological warfare training. The Charlie Kirk connection demands immediate congressional investigation. Truth is finally emerging.